Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to 1 Billion Arcs After Hours, the podcast where we take about 20, 25 minutes at most, because I can ramble. Sorry. We talk about what we talked about on the episode before a little bit, or talk about the points that we didn't get a chance to bring up on the episode before. Little short thing, and I also answer some of the questions that you guys have, or questions that I find around the internet that I feel will be beneficial for you to have answers to. All of that is to say, today we are talking about the power of letting go of the rules and finding your unique voice. That's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we do that, let me do the obligatory socials. So, first and foremost, get over there on Instagram or Blue Sky and follow us at 1 Brilliant Arc. That's it. You can also follow us on Facebook, TikTok. If it's still around by the time you hear this, we'll be over there. If not, we'll be on whatever the new platform is, but it will most likely still be 1 Brilliant Arc. And yeah, check us out. We do bite-sized content about stuff, bite-sized recaps of some of the stuff that we did in the newsletter, as well as some relatable posts that hit you right in the feels, and just little pieces of little nuggets that'll help you become a better writer. Outside of that, if you have found us on the Substack, and that's where you're listening to this at, and you've done all the things, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much. But if you haven't, www.obaconnect, OBACONNECT.com. Go over there, sign up to our newsletter, where we do, on a weekly basis, we do breakdowns of story mechanics through pop culture mediums, as well as helping you to become a more confident and competent writer, both on and off the page. So we hope that you go over there and check it out. Hope that you sign up. We would love to have you. So all of that being said, let's jump right into the topic. So I want to talk about the piano lesson. That's what we talked about during this episode, but not just the piano lesson, because I also finished Their Eyes Were Watching God recently. And by the time you guys see this, I would have just I probably hadn't even started it yet by the time you actually hear this or see this. But at the time of recording this, I have finished it. And one of the coolest things about it is, very similarly to the piano lesson, is there is often a space where creators will make something, and if it's authentic, if it's true to them, true to their voice, true to their world, true to their experience, a lot of times it doesn't fit into the neat little box that is the rules of society, the rules of, and by society I mean the society of creation, the society of writing. There are rules about there are rules or suggestions or whatever about how you should or should not communicate, or the kinds of stories that you should or should not tell. But some of those stories that you shouldn't tell, or you shouldn't say, or things you shouldn't say, are things that are very real to a person's experience. They're very authentic to who they are, where they're from. And I think that those stories are oftentimes, just like we talked about in the last After Hours episode, a matter of representation. And I think that Miss Hurston, the author of Their Eyes Were Watching God, was criticized for her authenticity in her time. That book now is considered one of the greatest novels of all time, and it is revered, and it is considered a genius bit of work. But at its time, when it was released, it was definitely not. Critics and even some readers did not like it. They thought, oh, this flies in the face of convention. I was going to use another word, but I did not want to fall on my face trying to say it, so we're not going to do that. But it flies in the face of the conventions that we have created in our space, and because of that, this is trash. That's the idea. That's the idea that was ultimately put forth about it. But I think that authenticity is what allowed it to stand the test of time. You, as a writer, have very unique experiences, and this is not about your race. This isn't about your race. This isn't about your culture. This isn't even about your gender. This is about you as a person, your experiences, your family. We talked about this in the podcast about, your family has a special recipe. Your family has a special tradition that they do. Your family has an inside joke that they tell. they have traumas, sad stories, tragedies that they've only experienced that are unique to them, but are also universally understood. Because even if I don't understand, even if I don't have the tradition, okay, let's say your family has a tradition of every Saturday they gather around, the table, and they have a wonderful meal together, and we all, they decided we don't wait till just Thanksgiving to talk about what we're thankful for. We come together every Saturday and we have a conversation, and we appreciate each other, and we eat a meal together. Even if I don't do that, even if my family doesn't do that, I can understand. I can understand on a universal level the need to come together with people you care about and tell them that you love them, to tell them that you appreciate them, and tell them that you want to be in their presence. I can understand that on a universal level. And I think that what's important for a lot of people is that you have to kind of tell your story. Share the reason why I bring up those traditions or those things is because those are unique to you, and you can put those in your writing. You can put that kind of stuff in your writing. It doesn't have to be verbatim what you do, but those things can be the foundation to the stories that you're telling. And then within that, you are connecting other people to it because they are recognizing the universal message within it. So I think that that's why I know that a lot of people do tend to fear being authentic because being authentic won't sell. And I know that's the big thing. That's the big what is it? The big push is like, can I get published? Can I be traditionally published? Will this be sellable? Big publishing companies look at something and can we make money off of it? And at the end of the day, the publishing industry is a business. I get that. I mean, the Hollywood is a business. I understand that. But at the end of the day, the world sharing these authentic stories may seem like a bad idea because it's like, oh well, it's not, we don't want to tell black stories. And I say black because, and I always say black because one, I'm unapologetically black, but I'm also, it's the only lens that I can really speak through. I'm a man and I'm black. That's my world. That's the lens that I have. So I have to speak for that way. But keep in mind that me saying that doesn't change anybody else's experience with how anybody else looks at it. So just please don't take the I'm black and this is, as, oh, this is just for black people. It's not. It's for you. If you have a story to tell, it's for you too. But the idea is there are certain, not stipulations, but there are just certain gates that tend to get put up towards certain types of stories. This does happen. So you'll have certain companies, certain publishing houses, certain studios or whatever, they'll say, oh, this is a black story. It's going to bring in a black audience. So, we're a little bit more risk adverse to it because we don't know if it's going to be a mainstream thing. And so you as the writer, knowing, oh, they don't want, black stories. Oh, they don't want woman-led stories. They don't want trans stories. They don't want any of those kinds of things right now because it's not going to be mainstream. It's not going to net them the largest revenue possible. But the thing is, fuck those guys. Okay? Fuck them. Because at the end of the day, and I love that phrase, at the end of the day, so you get used to hearing it. At the end of the day, though, your story, if you tell the story that's most authentic to you, will resonate with everybody. That's the problem that executives and executives, no matter what industry they are in, fail to realize. Authenticity resonates more than anything else. People will go and see a movie about a black family if the universal truths that are in that story are completely relevant to everybody else. The thing about the piano lesson is that it is not, although yes, it is about an African American family, it is also about family. It is about the curse of carrying around trauma and how whether or not holding on to trauma is honoring legacy, if that's honoring legacy or not. That's what it's about. Or if releasing it is better. That's what it's about. That's a conversation that every single family on every single, and no matter what continent you were from, can relate to. Every person can relate to that. We all have trauma. We all have family grievances. We all have things that we should let go of, that we don't know if we should let go of it, or if we do let go of it, is it disrespectful to the people that have come before us? We all have asked questions similar to that in some way, shape, or form. That's not a black thing. That's a human thing. Storytelling is not about race. It's not about race or gender. It's about human experience. We say the story is it's the thing that I say all the time here. A story is the connective tissue of civilization. It is the thing that holds us all together. That being said, it doesn't matter what the gender is. It doesn't matter what your race is. An authentic experience, an authentic human experience is an authentic human experience, and people resonate with it. So it doesn't matter if who your family is. It doesn't matter if you're from the deep south or you're some Cajun family, and the way that you communicate, most people wouldn't understand. It doesn't matter if you're from some Native American tribe with traditions and practices that are completely abnormal to everyone else, that would seem abnormal to everyone else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If the stories that you're telling are universally relatable, if they have something that is authentic, if it's an authentic human experience, I can almost guarantee you other people have had something similar that will resonate with them. And you should definitely go out and tell those stories. Do not fear being able to put your words out there, because you're worried that you come from a place, you come from, I don't know, buttfuck America, and as far as you and nobody, you got like 12 people in your town, and your experience is so unique that like nobody will ever get it. So I don't really want to tell stories. So instead, I'm just going to tell the same old tired tropes that have been used in every other story that are mainstream, and hopefully it's so that I can go viral and I can be the next Fourth Wing. Don't talk about that town. Talk about buttfuck America. Talk about the 12 people talk about a character that lives in a town with 12 people. Do it, because I think that that's infinitely more interesting than the mainstream tropes that are constantly used. Your authentic voice is necessary. Your universal experiences are necessary, and we need them. I want them. Give them to me. That is all I have to say as far as that goes. The last thing we do before we wrap things up is I want to answer a question. This question I found on the internet, so I found it on Reddit, so I wanted to ask it just because I thought, oh, this one seems like a really interesting one. But the question was, how can I decide what is the best ending for my story? This is a very interesting question, because I think that a lot of times people really struggle with it. I think the best way to deal with this is, one, come up with your ending first. I think even if you don't know the ins and outs, like you don't know the details, like all of the pieces of the puzzle, you don't know that, but this is where we're going to end. That's a great way to do it. If you start there, that's great. If you're torn, because I believe based on this post, this person was torn between two separate endings. My answer to you is this: what is the central theme of your story? What is the ultimate lesson that your protagonist or protagonists need to learn? And whatever that is what your ending, which ending that you have supports that lesson learned or lesson not learned or ignored. If it's a tragic, sad story, is it a lesson that they didn't learn? And this is the key moment where that reaches its fever pitch, where they ultimately are no longer interested in learning that lesson and they're giving up. That's the ending for you. Choose that one. If they did learn, choose that one. That's the ultimate thing. What ties to the ultimate theme? What ties into the ultimate lesson the character needs to learn? And depending on what you want from your story, let that be the ending. So it's not very complicated. I don't think it has to be a super big thing. I think another thing to consider is your audience. What do you want your audience to feel? Do you want them to be happy? Do you want them to be angry? Do you want them to be sad? I feel like you should never really want your audience to be angry. But if that's what you're going for, go for it. But thinking about what your audience what you want the audience to feel. I tell this to Charles all the time. I personally am not very good at telling people what's a good story and what's a bad story. What's a good movie, what's a bad movie. I go based off of how I feel. I have adult ADHD, and so for me, I feel and experience things a lot differently than people that are far more analytical or people that are neurotypical. For me, I feel the way I experience story is through feeling. And so I just have to feel my way through it. So to me, the question becomes, did this story make me feel the way that I think that it promised to make me feel? that the genre promised to make me feel, that the general concept, if it's an action novel or an action story, an action adventure, was I thrilled? Did I have a good time? Did the ending make me have me at the edge of my seat of like, oh my god, what's going to happen? This is so exciting. Then if it did that, then you did a good job. You did a good job. If it's horror, was I terrified the entire way through? Did the climax make me feel like, I can't go to bed tonight? Then you did a good job. Romance, did I swoon? Did I look at my life and say, "Damn, I wish I had that"? Then you did a good job. So think about what you want the audience to feel, and whichever ending that you have aligns best with that. That's probably the best option for you. And then the only other option that I would throw out there as something to consider would be making sure that the character that you're ending, the ending feels earned for a character. Make sure of that. That's by earned, I mean, don't sit there and tell me that this guy is the weakest of the weak and the whole story he is this weak individual who struggles to overcome this, and then somehow, randomly, we didn't see it progress, we didn't see him become better, he just randomly decides to be the most dominant, badass individual this side of the Mississippi. We need, make us feel like we've earned it. Don't spend the entire book putting Bethany and David together, and teasing a possible relationship for those two and the possibility of something, only to have David end up with Veronica over here that we just met at the end of Act 2. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that. That's not a good ending. That's not. Make sure that we earn it. You don't have to give us the happy ending. You just have to give us one that is earned. If David doesn't end up with Bethany, that's okay. That's totally fine. If they've been dancing around this thing the whole book and then in the end they just don't get together because some tragic thing happens and it just doesn't work out, and that's the point of the story, is that sometimes love just doesn't work out no matter how hard you try and no matter how much it feels like it's going to. That's okay. That's okay. I'm okay with that because I understand that that's the point. I don't understand is when you bring in Veronica's ass and try to make me, root for a whole different character I didn't know. Listen, that's beside the point. The point is make it earned. Make it earned. Make it align with the lesson the character needs to learn. Whether they fail to learn it or not is up to you. And make sure that you consider what you want the audience to feel. Those three things I think are more than enough to determine what you should or should not do, which ending you should ultimately pick. That being said, I want to say thank you so much for listening to After Hours, this episode of After Hours. Just to do. Check us out on our social media, as I mentioned before, at One Brilliant Arc. We are on Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, Facebook. I feel like that's all of them that we are on. Yes, those are all the ones we are on. Definitely follow or subscribe or whatever the native mechanism is. Do it. We would appreciate it. Outside of that, we have our newsletter, www.obaconnect.com, where you can follow us for weekly articles that we break down pop culture mediums to help you become a better writer on and off the page. Definitely check that out. And if you were stuck with your story, stuck with your ending, stuck with any of those things, and you need a little bit of help, do not hesitate to take us up on our free consultation. The link to that free consultation booking is underneath this podcast, as well as all over our newsletter and pretty much everywhere. So you can always schedule that 30-minute consult just to get an idea of where you are and how we can help you to get to the next level. We would appreciate you. We appreciate your story, and it deserves to be heard. Thank you for listening. Check out the next episode of Let's Talk Stories, where we talk about Malcolm and Marie. Thanks again, guys, for listening. I'm your host, Jared Moses, and keep on writing your stories. Make sure to write fearlessly and inspire without limits. Have a good day.